Hey there, and welcome to another episode of your weekly dose of higher consciousness. My name is Liz Gracia. I'm your happy host and founder and editor in chief of the MindBodySpiritNetwork.com that brings you this podcast. This week, I have a special podcast series where I bring back Linda Armstrong, a certified emotion, body, and now belief code practitioner. And about 6 or 7 months ago, we did, I think, 6 videos, maybe 7, and demonstrations of the emotion code and the body code, like in practice and live. And we talked about them. What are they all about? Why do we like them? And again, the books came across my awareness from my participation in consciousnesscalibrations.com. And the books came in at a high level and significant level of consciousness in regards to healthy healing energies. So the emotion code is calibrated at 370 or 10 to the 370th power. The body code came in at 350. And now the belief code, there's no book, but the energy of what's going on in belief code sessions, what's understood by practitioners and how to do that, it's coming in at 360, I believe. Does that sound right, Linda? Do you remember that calibration?
Yeah, I think
forget.
so. I think it was kind of in the middle from the other two.
Right, me too. So if it's coming in at 360, that's the energy of healthy, which is like, hello, like there's no argument, like this is healthy. So nothing to be afraid of. Like I've seen things online, people are afraid of, is the emotion code dangerous? It's only dangerous if you hold in mind that it is. I mean, is that fair to say, Linda?
Yeah, because there you go
Yeah.
with beliefs, right?
Exactly. All right.
Yeah.
So I've been having emotion code, body code, and now belief code sessions with Linda and another practitioner for over a year now. So I love to share what I experience, what I'm noticing, and shifts that are significant in my own life. So in today's podcast, we're going to dive into the transformative world of the belief code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. And this is just the next step in his evolution of healing and teaching practitioners about his process and what's come to him. Now, to pique your curiosity and set the stage for an enlightening discussion with Linda Armstrong, here are 2 thought-provoking questions for you. Have you ever considered that your core beliefs, formed in early childhood and perhaps inherited, could be the invisible architects of your daily life and relationships? And what if I told you that there's a method backed by science backed by consciousness calibrations as well, for that matter, that can identify, remove, and replace the subconscious beliefs that don't serve you and allow you to live a more fulfilled and present life? I invite you to join Linda and I as we're going to dive into the belief code today, again by Dr. Bradley Nelson. Linda, welcome back. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me back. I love talking about these, as you know, because
Yes.
it's just amazing what I see, how it's shifting people. And now with the belief code added to the other 2, they just all work together so well that, it's just, I'm loving it.
Good. Awesome. So listeners and gang watching us there, today we're going to do 3 different videos that we'll kind of group together so you can find them. The first one, we're going to talk about what is the belief code just in general. And I told Linda I really wanted to do a mini video about conscious beliefs, how you deal with them versus subconscious beliefs. We're going to do a video about that. And then finally, we're going to do a live, well, it won't be live, but we're going to do it live right this second, belief code session, which we may or may not take to completion, but at least you're going to see what a belief code session looks like. And Linda came up with the great idea of doing a session about beliefs we have about aging, physicality, all that kind of stuff. Like we got stuff running about beliefs about aging that don't serve us. So we're going to do that. That'll be our 3rd video. So let's get started with the basics. Linda, just tell us a bit about the belief code, so people understand what it's all about and what it is you kind of do as a practitioner.
Well, with the belief code, you're looking for beliefs that are just subconscious, right? They're underneath the surface. You don't logically know what it is. And so we want to pull those energies out because they're obviously affecting you in your life. All that subconscious chitter chatter going on in the background, it's being sent out into the universe. And of course, you're going to get back that thing. So a lot of times people are like, I don't know, I've done everything to take care of this problem. Maybe it's a physical thing, could be anything, right? And they just feel like they're not getting anywhere. But if we do the belief code session.
Yes,
okay.
I'm agreeing. I'm holding up my hand. Yeah, I do all this inner work to no avail. And like, what the F, I say to myself. Sorry, I promised I wouldn't drop F-bombs. There you go.
That's okay. I saw you raising your hand and I thought, okay, what? But thank you for adding that, because that's true. I mean, even for myself, I used to do a lot of theta healing and all that, pulling beliefs out. But yet with the belief code, I'm uncovering, there's 5 different types of belief systems you can have. One is called partial, and that's where you maybe have done a lot of work on yourself and maybe you pulled out a whole bunch of beliefs, but there's some stragglers hanging there that just were not uncovered. So with the belief code, we look at it like a tree. I'll just give you this visual of how it works. So there's like negative programs up at the top, limiting beliefs. They're like negative programming. That's the leaves in the tree, the branches at the top, right? You come into the body, the trunk, and there's limiting beliefs there. You go down into the root, like where it started, and you've got, a faulty core belief. And then you could even go into the soil, which they say is a faulty core identity, the way Dr. Bradley came up with all of this. And that's the soil that the seed was planted in. So you may have that, you may not have that. It doesn't always show up, but those we take in, however we do that, between birth and age 7, right? So something's going on in the environment around us, with us, and we pull that stuff in, and then it grows from there, belief upon belief upon belief. So that's basically how we look at it, like this tree. So I was talking about that partial one. That's like you pulled out the whole tree, right? You filled in the soil. Maybe you put in like some new beliefs, right? But you left a couple of logs there, a couple of branches, and those are some beliefs that were never really handled. That's where you might have that. I found that a lot of myself because I've done a lot of work. I'm like, oh my God. So a lot of times people might say, why does this keep coming up? I thought I cleared it. I was good for a while, but then something resurfaced in some way. So this does a good job of like finding those things and helping you to clear that.
Yeah. And I noticed in the emotion code and the body, all of them, emotion, body, and belief code, Linda, that Dr. Nelson has found that there's layers of stuff that you get all at once, as opposed to, say, I think Reiki healing doesn't get to that root and everything associated with it. And this is just another way where, like a Jenga game where you pull that bottom one and it collapses everything, as opposed to getting little things off the top, which aren't working. That's sort of the analogy I envision. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but you are practicing Reiki healing too, Linda, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, Reiki is a totally different thing, because Reiki, you're just really sending in that healing energy, releasing. Yeah. But
okay.
The theta healing, we look for that bottom belief, and you're asking a lot of questions trying to get down to that bottom belief, because they also say you pull that bottom belief and the whole thing collapses. But you don't always know if you got to that bottom belief.
Right. So it's kind of like the metaphor is like a weed in your garden. The weed's going to keep popping up until you pull the weed.
The root, you get the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
what more do you want to say about the belief code, Linda? You want to talk about different aspects, like during a session that I find pretty interesting, or the different types of beliefs? You started with that. Maybe finish that up real quick.
Okay. Yeah. So I explained the partial one. So you have a basic belief system, right? So you might have 3 to 4 negative programs up there in those branches. Then with the trunk of it, they're all limiting beliefs, but we call the trunk a limiting belief, right? And that is you might have 1 to 3 of those. It's different in every system, but this is like the basic structure. Usually only one faulty core belief, which is the root system, and one faulty core identity, which is the soil part of it. But you may have a split system, which is where the tree grows and it kind of splits into 2 trees, 2 sets of branches and leaves to the one trunk. So you'd have to find 2 sets of negative programs. Then you may also have a tangled one, right? So the roots were 2 trees, roots, but somehow the tree merged and grew into one. So there you have 2 sets of faulty core beliefs, but the usual negative programs, limiting, usual structure. And then there's the parallel. So you had a parallel, right? I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with a parallel system, it's like 2 or 3 whole systems running alongside each other, working together. So I find a lot of those where there are 3 systems. Many times it's just 2 systems, and those could be inherited. You could have a whole inherited system where it's like you, the mom, and the dad, and how they all come together. Yeah.
Way to get entangled.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. And I find when I do those, you might find a similar belief to one in the other one. Like you could see how it like matches up. Now I don't know if that happens every time, but I have noticed that in a lot of the ones that I've done.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to just give you a heads up, listeners and watchers, that this sounds complicated, but when Linda starts to do the session, it goes pretty quickly. It's not, because she's testing like, okay, what type of belief system we got going on here? How do we approach the problem? How do we dig in and clear it out? So Linda, is there any interesting things? Well, I know there's a lot of interesting things. Maybe just mention a few of the little avenues that you can be taken down during a belief code session, just to give people ideas of what you will uncover about yourself, which I have found some things are like ludicrous. I'm like, are you friggin' kidding me? And some things are like, oh, no wonder I keep attracting this. I got this running constantly. Yeah. So anyway, you can speak to that a little bit, just to pique people's interest. Like I find it fascinating when you uncover all this hidden stuff, and you're like, you can stop beating up on yourself. You're like, I wouldn't have known this. And if I inherited something, how would I have ever known it? And now there's a way to find out. So Linda, have at it.
Well, that's sort of a loaded question and not that easy to answer. I don't know. That's okay. So there are so many beliefs built into the system, right? And there's just like body code. If you've seen the body code videos we did, there's a program. It takes you through the different things. Now with the belief code, there are 7 sections, and each one is correlated to your chakra system. Okay. And, and that affects different areas of your life and all of that. So that you can see how things might associate that way. Also, well, I can't remember all the different beliefs in there, but it's sort of like if you've done body code work, sometimes there's no rationale as to why you had to balance this organ and you had to release this energetic thing going on here, and you had to adjust your bone in your foot. And then, and you're like, what does that have to do with my thing going on? It's just energy's trapped wherever it is in the body. Body code doesn't always make sense. But what you were explaining too is that as you're looking at these beliefs, you're like, oh, it starts to tell a story. And that's kind of in our mind comforting, because we're like, oh, I could kind of see that. But you do get surprised. Like I was doing something on myself the other day. I don't even know what it was, but I had a bunch of things come up around happiness. I'm like, yeah, but I'm happy. Like I consider myself happy. I didn't realize I had some of this stuff trapped in there from whatever went on at that time. Yeah. And then a little bit more I can add to maybe fill this out is that with the belief code, you don't have to, as we find the beliefs, we don't have to find out information about them in order to release them. With the body code, sometimes you really have to know, like, when did you trap this? What was going on? And all that kind of stuff, because your subconscious mind wants to call the experience or bring the energy up so you see it. So your mind has, maybe your subconscious mind, like it would help her to know some detail about this. So it gives you the detail. I find people who I work with a lot, like if I work with Liz a lot, we don't need to know the story. We're like, no, wipe it out, wipe it out. Right?
Yeah.
And just like the body code, we take the magnet and we just wipe down that governing meridian to release the belief. So with the belief code, after you find all the beliefs, you may find associations. That's when we do have to dig in and get some information. But the information we're getting is, are there any trapped emotions stuck into this whole thing that if we don't pull them, we're not going to be able to get the whole system out? And it may even take you into the body code, because there's a lot of energetic things within the body code that you won't find in the belief code. So they work together: emotion code, body code, belief code. It's all integrated. So we find all these things associated to this belief system, all the beliefs we found within that tree system, we'll call it. And then we find the associations, clear all of those, pull all the beliefs, and then we ask your subconscious mind, do we need to replace any of these beliefs? And you may get a yes, and we find out which ones need to be replaced. Sometimes I had to replace all of them, sometimes none, sometimes just a few. And the nice thing is you can take those new beliefs and you can make like a mantra for yourself around it. So you can take it with you and work with it in your life, right? But there was something more I wanted to say about, oh yeah, and then sometimes when you don't have to, I'm just telling you how the whole thing works, and you'll see it when we do it. If you do not have to replace the beliefs, there's something we do where it's like defragging the computer, where we're filling in the spaces. So the visual we work with is like a bookcase, and you got all these books on it, right? But it's everyone's like a belief, all these beliefs, and we're pulling these out, right? Pulling them out. Books are falling over. There's big gaps. Now it looks messy. So we just tidy it all up, right? Even if I put in replacement beliefs, I still like to do this because it just feels like it rounds it all off. It's a nice visual at the end, because as you straighten up the books, you're making room on that shelf for all the new things, all the good stuff that wants to come in. So yeah, why not celebrate that a little bit, right?
Yes. All right. So we're going to get to our next video is going to be about conscious beliefs, what Dr. Bradley has found about that, because that was a revelation to me. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? So that's our next video. And then we're going to do a session on whatever type of beliefs. I'm going to be the guinea pig I'm holding about aging, the body. I know I have I've changed my mindset about menopause and hair color. We'll talk about that in the video. So thank you, Linda, for this. And you're going to want to watch a session. It's super interesting. And if you've missed our other videos on, we spoke about the emotion code and the body code, it's all super fascinating. And if you're really interested in healing your life and you do a lot of work and nothing to no avail, you're going to want to discover this. And what I've found in my own releasing of all this stuff and uncovering all this stuff is my level of consciousness, let's just call it, has been raised. Like my new base is solid underneath. There's not all these holes in my foundation anymore. I'm like shored up, and my metaphor for being shored up is firmly rooted like a redwood in the ancient redwood forest. I'm talking strong trunk, strong roots, totally present. I mean, that's kind of my metaphor for it. So if you like what's going on here, you want to catch up on our other videos. You can see the rest of them that'll be in this playlist on YouTube. Or you can go to the mindbodyspiritnetwork.com/emotion code. All of the videos are there, along with a blog post and resources to move forward in training in the emotion code, body code, all that stuff. Or you can hire Linda, who I would recommend. I have a great time with Linda, and it's so fascinating. She's very good at what she's doing now. She tests like a whiz, like she can just move through things quickly. And you can schedule time with Linda at the mindbodyspiritnetwork.com/Linda Armstrong, all one word. Anything else there, Linda, before we head into the next video?
No, I was just going to add, when you were talking about how you feel differently after doing a lot of this work, I find, yeah, absolutely, with all of them, emotion code, like releasing the heart wall, you might not notice it right away, but you'll find, at least I find, I don't get triggered anymore. I really don't get triggered. It's more like you can just look at things as they show up. And
yep,
walk through it, do whatever needs to get done, receive the information, because you're clearing out a lot of these things that block you from that connection and from your own ability to be like, oh, okay, without getting thrown off and going down that rabbit hole. And that's, it's sunken deep into the, everybody knows what that is. You just like, really, you feel a lot lighter. And that's something people say, even like with belief code, you might not notice a difference immediately, but you do feel a difference. And then you walk through your life and you see how things happen. And I know we don't want this to go long, but I will say, I've done some sample videos on my YouTube channel. One of my clients, Keiko, and she was having these blocks, which now I get emails from her. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. She had blocked towards like putting herself out there and delivering courses to the world. Now she's delivering them, right? We just had to get rid of this stuff that was in the way.
Yes. And we all got, I just want to reiterate that I don't get triggered. Well, I don't get triggered in general much, but I really don't get triggered much anymore. And what's interesting to observe, if you hold, like, you'll find that people that used to trigger you won't anymore, because you're not holding the energy for that to manifest. You're not a magnet for it anymore. You're a magnet for something different, and they're going to treat you differently. And they may not even pay attention to the fact they're like, oh, I love you. How you doing? Something totally different. Whatever energy is coming from you now, it's not, people that trigger you, you can't blame them. You are holding the energy that invites it in. And really the invitation is to see what you're inviting. It's your invitation to see, what are you holding on to that you need to let go of? So that's kind of, you got to spin that around and stop blaming and shaming others and being the victim to anything when you start working with this, releasing this stuff.
Yeah, I'll just add just to that. I'm going to add to that, and we can go on forever. So this will be the last thing I add.
Okay.
So it really, because a lot of people start out in the energy world learning about law of attraction first, right? Yeah. So this proves it, because that what Liz just said is that energy you're sending out is the energy you're getting back. So if you're no longer holding that energy of all those things that used to draw to you those triggers, well, that they're not showing up anymore, because you're not a match to it. I just had to really emphasize that in those terminology for those people who law of attraction makes sense, and they're like, to put the dots together.
Yep, for sure. All right, gang, thanks for joining us on this video. Next up, we're going to talk about subconscious beliefs, which the belief code addresses and helps to identify, versus conscious ones. That's a little hook. And then we'll do our session on releasing beliefs you have about aging, the body, whatever. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Linda, for being here. I love having you here. And I do want to put a little plug in for Linda too. She's on my Instagram feed, and sometimes, her little videos come up and they're just like, she's a ray of sunshine. Linda, what's your handle on Instagram?
I think it's Linda Armstrong 1111.
Oh yeah, it is. Is there any underscore there at all, or?
I don't think so.
Okay. Anyway, every time I see her videos, I'm like, she lights me up. She's so positively oriented, helpful, matter of fact. She's cleared a lot of crap. She'll be helpful to you. All right. We'll see you in the next video, you guys.
All right. Bye, everybody.